What up, homies? We are waiting. There is a huge announcement in Canada. Hopefully, something is about to change here in the world. Welcome to the show. How you doing? Free, free now. Free to see, cause I wanna be free. We are just waiting to see if Trudeau is fired, if the Shadow Gov has fired Trudeau, and then we're waiting to see who the Shadow Gov has picked for the new finance minister, because Sean Fraser just resignated, gave his resignation from the Liberal Party just now.
so rapidly, and how effectively did monetary policy respond? To be prepared for the future, we need to be clear-eyed about what surprised us. My colleagues and I have already written and spoken about some of the lessons, so I can be brief here, but I want to highlight three. First, economic supply matters every bit as much as demand, and we need to understand it better. Monetary policy typically focuses mostly on demand, and that's because interest rates largely affect demand, and because supply usually evolves more smoothly and predictably. The pandemic reminded us we cannot take that for granted. Supply disruptions can be sudden, severe, and persistent. They can accumulate, and they are more inflationary when demand is strong. We also learned that what matters for inflation is not only the demand-supply balance for the economy as a whole, but also across different sectors. The disinflation in weak sectors may be smaller than the inflationary impact on sectors that are overheated. In the future, we need better information and analysis about the supply side of the economy. Second, we learned that price-setting behavior changes when inflation is high. You're all businesses. What we see is that typically businesses are hesitant to raise prices. They worry their price increases will stand out and they'll lose customers to their competitors. But as the economy came out of the pandemic, supply disruptions and higher commodity prices pushed up costs, and demand was very strong. Businesses had trouble keeping up with orders. With high demand, businesses felt they could pass on more of their cost increases than usual and more rapidly. What we learned is that in some contexts, businesses can dramatically change their price-setting behavior. Our economic models and forecasts need to reflect this reality. And finally, we learned, or perhaps we relearned, just how much people hate inflation. All of a sudden, people couldn't afford the things they need. And while inflation is low once again, many prices are still a lot higher than they were before the pandemic. So people feel ripped off. And that erodes public trust in our economic system. The spike in inflation in 2022 was a reminder that even though inflation was relatively low and stable for 30 years leading up to the pandemic, central banks cannot take public trust for granted. We need to earn that trust by being clear about our objectives, accountable for our actions, and humble in the face of uncertainty. That brings me to the future. Unfortunately, it looks more uncertain than it did before the pandemic. Big structural changes are already underway. Deglobalization, demographic shifts, digitalization, and decarbonization are all having significant effects on jobs, growth, and inflation.